What's going on, YouTube? Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I don't know. I have told the story to a couple people, but they really have never kind of put it out there for the world, I guess. So this is kind of the journey of self improvement. And I don't really like using that term in today's day and age because of the way I feel that it's been transformed. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's just changed a lot since whenever I kind of ran into it. Now I feel like self improvement has become this like very kind of get rich or get fast sort of idealistic way of success and attaining certain things, which is good. That's the point. And honestly, a lot of it starts off of just trying to attract girls, right? For many guys, especially younger guys. So I'm 28. I guess I started kind of that whole improvement journey, if you want to call it that, at 17. And at 17 years old, man, I pretty much got to the point where I had super low self esteem. Like, I remember walking, I was in my bathroom and I was like brushing my hair or something. I look in, my mom says, "Oh, like she says something along the line, like trying to, tease me or say something like, "Oh, trying to look good for the girls." And I was like, "No, it's all right. I mean, I know I'm ugly, so there's not any girls that like me. I'm an ugly guy." And I remember her face whenever I said that was like she couldn't believe what I had just said. And I'll never forget that because I think at that moment I really just kind of also looking back internalized how I really thought of myself. And I don't think I was an ugly kid for 17 years old. I mean, compared to some of the kids my age, obviously, sure, there's differences, but I wasn't like not an ugly kid per se. So fast forward to later on in the year, I really had this huge crush on this girl, and I really wanted, like, that was kind of my motivation to start kind of changing up, getting haircuts, trying to look good, just trying to be presentable more. Up until that point, I was spending up all night playing COD, video games, the whole thing, just doing homework, just doing the minimum needed to get by. Still had good grades or decent grades, good in my classes, but that was pretty much it, man. I would get home, come from school, eat some cereal, get on the game, play with my friends. That's what I look forward to the most. And I think at one point, like I mentioned, I had a huge crush on that girl. So I, just kept trying to impress her or whatnot. And I realized, man, for a while, I mean, all my life, I'd always been a really skinny kid, had acne, the whole 9 yards. And I don't know, I just got really tired of having this like defeatist victim mindset. I had a couple other times where I had these huge crushes on other girls too. And I just never could really ante up and kind of push the mark of, trying to do anything about it. So I remember coming across a 4chan board called Fit. Fit was just basically this 4chan board where like guys would just talk about fitness stuff all the time. I ran across this thing called the Sticky. The Sticky basically broke down all these general questions that you had when you first started getting into fitness. And I knew that the first thing I had to do in order to really make a change was to, change my appearance, my physical appearance, get stronger. I really didn't know what that meant or what that felt like. I knew I needed to start working out and make a difference. So I started looking at Fit, learning what calories are, macronutrients, started kind of going down that path. And, I started making changes there. At 17, did a little push-ups. I brought some dumbbells, nothing too crazy, but just to get my mind right and notice that I had to make a change. I had to start taking better care of myself. Had to start being a little bit more proactive, getting more uncomfortable. And that was perfect because right when I got into college, I was still very, much in that learning state. Even aside from that, I was, because I always just ran to play video games as soon as I got home, never played sports, never really did extracurricular activities. I was lacking my social skills greatly. I really didn't pick up on social cues very well. Was I didn't pick up on social cues very well. I didn't really have many interactions outside of Xbox or school. So a lot of my things were, kind of routine. My interactions were routine. I also like kind of had a superficial, I'm kind of better than these people type of mentality. So interacting with other people became, very awkward and jagged. And I could tell that, interactions were stiff at times, but I always would blame it on the other person. And I had a lot of interactions still like that in my early college days. But over time, I learned that I was actually the asshole and I was the one that needed to change. That people are the way that they are to an extent. And you can have to, you take people as they are. You don't have to be a dick about everything. Anyways, so, I had started lifting, started getting more successful women, wasn't always right away. Still had very awkward upbringings and learnings and stuff. Learning how to kiss, never did that or anything like that, man. I really had to coach myself and learn through this stuff. There was no real YouTube stuff out there that was teaching guys how to do this. You had NoFap and that kind of stuff was out, but there was no real centralized way of this. Self-help books. I read a couple of self-help books, but they kind of just all say the same thing after a while. And so, I got to a point where I felt very comfortable. I started making more friends. I got more sociable. I started kind of getting that attraction to women that I wanted and, got stronger in the gym. I started, getting big in my bench, squat, deadlift, all those numbers. And, pretty much in different experiences of life, of course, it taught me different things. But I guess what I'm trying to say ultimately is that I don't think at any point I really, I see a lot of what younger guys see now, right? Like 16, 15, even early 20s. And I kind of feel bad because you guys are just getting paraded with well-meaning content and transformatory content. But it's just this self-masturbation and, no pun intended, but you guys, not you guys, but I think this community of self-improvement, they make NoFap like this problem. Like they make pornography like a centralized problem to overcome. Like a man's nature isn't to be attracted to the female body and naked pictures of the female body and all these things. I gotta be the first one maybe on this platform to say that's completely natural. And there's a reason why some of you even got addicted to that stuff in the first place. It's because it's in your nature to. Many of men's nature to, The problem becomes when that becomes a central focus of what you think you have to solve in your life. And also when you actually are so addicted to it, you can't do anything else. And I think a lot of people think the first thing, or what I just mentioned, is actually the issue. It's really not. A lot of people watch pornography. I'm not here to say whether you should or shouldn't do it or anything or any of that, right? That's not my real point. If you can kind of see what I'm saying, my point is that it's not as big of a deal as you kind of make it to be, right? If you're 16, 17, 18 years old and, you think pornography is getting in your way, unless you're sitting in your room, and you can't stop, right? And you're just all day and night and you're beaming home just to do that, then yeah, you may have that kind of a problem. But I can guarantee you that 90% of you guys watching this video do not have that issue, right? So, what's your main problem right now? Probably that you need to get stronger. You want to talk to more girls. You want to get more social. And, you want to get a job. You want to make more money. These are probably all the centralized ideas of the things that you want to improve upon. So I'm going to give you kind of a centralized framework. And the very first thing is you don't actually have a NoFap or pornography problem. You have you don't have enough things to do. You're bored by the things that you have around you. You don't have anything to look forward to that is going to take you away from those things, right? Like your centralized focus and your proximity to being able to do those things is actually what's keeping you enabled to doing those things, right? So if you're somewhere where you can't do that, right? Like you work somewhere where you're interacting with people, maybe you're a waiter, right? Maybe you're a personal trainer, maybe you're in some regard interacting to where you can't be doing those things. And you're also getting more practice with socializing, because let me tell you something, coming from somebody who spent several hours every day in front of a screen interfacing with people through a microphone and the internet, that damages your social ability over time. It makes you literally socially retarded. You know, I know some of you guys may be neurodivergent, autistic, whatever, but doesn't mean that autistic people or neurodivergent people can't learn how to confined to, you know, societal norms of communication, right? And that's obviously its own thing, but don't victimize yourself on that. Try to seriously learn. Try to challenge yourself to see that you are not doing things in a correct fashion. The feedback that you get from people and from situations, you got to learn to understand that, you know, maybe that they're right. Maybe, damn, if I have no friends, maybe there is legitimately some reason or something that I'm doing that's enabling me from being unable to do that. You got to be incredibly objective with what's going on in your reality. And that's honestly the true self-improvement, right? Because that kind of framework and that kind of tidbit or advice can really propel you and apply it to almost any situation. Be objective, right? You know, almost anytime I come across a guy who's young and is self-improving and, you know, has, you know, just general guy stuff, I would say at that age, you start asking them questions about themselves and, hey, how old are you? What are you doing? Oh, I don't work. Or what do you do after school? I don't do anything. Or what do you do after class? I don't do much. Man, get involved. If you're in college, join an organization, join a sport, join a intramural sport, join a community sport or club or something. You know, join a fraternity or academic fraternity, whatever. I mean, just do things that enable you to your best interest, because that's what's going to keep you also doing those things. It's going to expand your social pool, going to give you more practice to talk with people and interact and, you know, get feedback from the things that you do incorrectly and whatnot. So, you know, that's kind of my point with this stuff. You really got to make yourself uncomfortable. You really got to do things out of the norm, and you really got to take the feedback of what people give you. Right? That's going to be the biggest key things, I think, in a real true self-improvement journey. None of this no-fap fluff or, you know, looks maxing or black pilling or anything like that. I was probably truthfully kind of black pilled without really realizing it when I mentioned all that stuff from before. So, you know, take it from me, right? And a lot of you guys will kind of default, black pillar guys will default to this, oh, well, you're X amount height, you're X amount weight, or you look this way, or you have these things. Guys, you cannot hold on to this victimized mindset and then also be having a hand open to receive the positives of what it takes to just put your head down and just really take it in what's going on in your life and really adjust and adapt to the circumstances. So, you know, don't do that. If anything, that's what life's taught me. It's like you cannot just stay stuck and then just blame everything else on everything else. There are things that are completely out of control. Yeah, of course, all the time. But, you know, you got to do what you got. You know, you got to make do with what you got. Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. You've heard all these things before. It sucks to hear it in the moment where you really feel like things are not fair in your direction and what you can do about it. But I promise you, if you consistently keep at it, you will get to that point where you will start to feel more and more satisfied, and you'll develop habits, and those habits will end up becoming good things for your life. So anyways, that's all I got to say on this topic. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please give this a like. This is one of my first videos on this platform on YouTube for this channel. So, you know, any kind of feedback helps. Comment, subscribe. I'm out of here. Peace.